Hey, everybody. Jeff Langmaid here with the Evidence-Based Chiropractor. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am fortunate to sit down today with John and Mickey from Jane. John is the product manager, one of the product managers over there. Mickey is on the support team as a chiropractic advocate. And if you are looking for an EHR that makes your workflow easier and works with your practice instead of what sometimes feels like against your practice, you're going to want to check out this demo. We're going to look at the workflow of a patient experience within Jane and how it can make a supreme impact in your practice. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on and sharing a demo with me today.
Thanks so much for having us. I'm super stoked to show you what Jane's about today.
It is my pleasure. Mickey, I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, to share screen and let's hop in right at the top, because everything starts, in my opinion, with patient intake. Really being able to get a patient into the EHR is the first step of being able to begin that relationship and communication. I know, Jane, you guys have been working super hard at making this process streamlined and seamless for so many docs out there. I'll let you take it away with some of the features that everybody should be paying attention to.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. So we've tried to make this as simple a process as possible for patients, just to eliminate the burden of actually scheduling an appointment. Essentially, what would happen for a Jane user is they would have a button on their website, something along the lines of book an appointment, and that would redirect here to our online booking site. The really cool part is that Jane functions in part as like a marketing team where you're going to be able to customize all of the branding here. So instead of Jane Demo Clinic, you would say the name of your practice, as well as choose your colors, the services that you offer, and it will also give you some idea of the practitioners that work at the practice as well. So as a patient, just to give you an idea of what it would look like, I would just choose the service I'm coming in for, so chiropractic care, for example. I would see who offers that service and the actual treatments that are available within that. So if I want to schedule my first visit, I could select this appointment type here. Over here, I'll see a couple different things. The other treatments that are offered on the left-hand side, as well as some availability under this calendar here. So if I select a time slot here, I can see that there's an availability I can book. I'll just choose the time that works best for me. I can book more appointments along with that, or if I'm done, I'll just let Jane know that. At this point, I will receive an email that says, hey, thanks for booking your appointment. In that email would also have an intake form to fill out. So if there's information that I need to be filling out as a patient that the practitioner wants to be aware of, I can do so there. There's actually a couple different places to do that. So now that I've booked my appointment, I can actually go right into the intake right from here. So it tells me my name and I can begin filling it out. Over here, I have my basic demographic information. So all of the information that would go into my profile as a patient. And you'll notice that if I'm an existing patient, if there's information within my profile already, it's pre-filled out, auto-populated within the intake. So that saves me a couple minutes there. And then I can go on to the next step. In the next step, I can begin to fill out the questionnaire for this intake form. So this is really customizable. I've just made a really basic one, but I can leave notes for the practitioner, what I'm coming in for. And down here, I can agree to a consent, whatever it might be, and leave my signature.
I absolutely love this because, in my opinion, online booking is so critically important to a modern practice, and especially practices of all sizes, really bigger or smaller practices. Being able to streamline the process of a patient scheduling an appointment, super important. The second part that I love that you just showcased is filling out a lot of that intake form before somebody gets to the reception area, before they end up in your practice. That's so great. I think about it from a patient perspective. It's like, that is nice. I can do that in the comfort of my own home. I can get it done. And it's a benefit for the patient and it's a benefit for the practice, because now as a clinician, I can dive in. I can see who's coming in. I see the appointment scheduled. I get a feel for who they are, what they're about, the information that they entered in here. And you have the opportunity, as I see there with some of the transactional emails, you have the opportunity to begin a communication stream and channel before they even arrive in for that first visit. I absolutely love it. But what happens next?
Yeah, like you've already touched on, it's sort of multi-purpose. One, it's to collect information from the patient, of course, but also to build that relationship so that in these transactional emails, we can indicate whether they prefer to have text messages, emails. One thing that Jane does include that I think is super neat is that there is an unlimited number of reminders that you can send to patients. So you can set up a reminder for like, I want to send out a reminder to go out 2 hours before their appointment, and that's going to be delivered by text message, or 24 hours or 48 hours. And there's no limit to the number that you can send out. And then it's up to the patient which ones they want to receive. So you're not bombarding them with information all the time.
Love it.
So it gives the patient a little bit of a say as well, but also allows you to manage things. And from the patient's perspective, they also have access to this accounts area. And in this accounts area, they can manage their entire relationship with your practice. They can reschedule appointments or cancel if you want to make that option available to them. Like I mentioned, they can fill out intake forms and view any intake forms that they have filled out right here. There are documents that might be available to them. So over here, you might want to attach like an exercise plan or stretches or anything like that you can upload and the patient can see here. All their profile information that they can fill out. And if you're processing payments through Jane, then you can also have them save their credit card, which is really great for you, especially if you're trying to manage cancellations or no-shows or late cancellations, so that you have something to charge if you need to, if you've detailed in your cancellation policy that if they're not able to give you notice, they will be charged for their service, just to make sure that you're able to sort of keep track of that and keep an honest communication here. And then, of course, like I mentioned, you can also set up reminders and notifications in Jane. So if you're a patient, you can go in and say, hey, I want my text message and an email reminder just because I get forgetful and I want to be reminded that I should be coming in for my visit. So that would be the beginning of the patient experience. That would be the end, their end, and what they would do on to schedule the appointment, to fill out any forms, to pay for it. All of that can be done from their end, which already takes off a little bit of that administrative burden from the practice, which is super neat.
Yeah, there's no question about that. One thing that you showcased there that is really important, I want to highlight because I know it's been a pain point for myself over time, and this certainly solves that pain point, the ability to reschedule. I think us as providers, especially as chiropractors, we see patients over the course of multiple visits, and being able to do exactly what you have right there, which is laying out the appointment schedule. Now it's not that the patient doesn't know, or that there's like a domino effect if something gets rescheduled and then you're missing an appointment or they miss multiple appointments. Giving them the flexibility to reschedule, I imagine, improves retention, limits dropout rates, and can help really enforce the care and treatment plan that the doctor that I, in this case, have prescribed to a patient, where they can visually see. And I just think that's such a powerful visual cue of what's going on with their care plan, where it's not this esoteric thing, but if they need to go in and reschedule, they can do it, see when their next appointment is, make sure they get one in before that next one, so that it doesn't become this cascading effect that I think sometimes when we're dealing in the conservative care space, and I know you see it all the time, when we're treating over the course of multiple weeks in some cases, and in some cases even over a few month period, sometimes appointments can get really wonky in terms of rescheduling and somebody calling in and they don't get the front desk and then they no-show. So really being able to help with patient continuity and retention, I love it. And I love the fact that this all happens in some cases before they even come in. Of course, they're rescheduling. They probably already come in and have received a care plan, but the flexibility and almost this mini patient portal to help them really take control of billing, scheduling, documentation. I love it because it helps clear much of that out of my office. And yeah, when the patient needs extra help and assistance, we're more than happy to do it. And we can do it from the back end in office, but it also empowers them so much to become engaged in the process, not only early on, but as their care and treatment continues. So I love where you're going, and we're just getting up to that first visit right now.
I know, and this is really great. One thing I would add to that is just, you're right, it lays it out perfectly in terms of what's coming up in their appointments. And all of these things also help the business in that if you want to keep track of reasons why people are canceling their appointments, you can actually customize these reasons. This drop-down menu is a default one, but you can choose what reasons that you're collecting from the patient. So if you want to be aware of like why traffic is causing cancellations, why some other reason is causing cancellations, we can compile a report for you so that you can help better manage your practice and change these reasons up, which is super cool. And then the other thing I would mention is that all of this happens in real time. If I cancel or reschedule an appointment, that time slot will be available for anybody else to book. So in that way, I don't have to go in and micromanage and let someone who's maybe on the wait list know that this appointment is now available. which sort of brings me to my next point, which is a feature that came out very recently, and that's the waitlist notification feature. So as a patient, what I can do is I can join the waitlist if I don't find an appointment that's working for me, or if an appointment time that's working for me. I'll select the practitioner I want to see. If there's multiple locations at the practice, I would choose the location I'm going to see them at. And then from there, I would choose the service I want to come in for and choose my date range. So whether that's this week, next week, whatever it might be, and then indicate my availability, as well as my reason for visit. And with that done, I'm added to the wait list. And the really, really nice thing about this for practitioners is that when a patient is added to the wait list, it will automatically notify them when that time slot opens up, or when a time slot within their availability range opens up, so that they'll be messaged and they can book they'll be redirected to the online booking site so that they can actually schedule that appointment, which is super convenient when you don't have the time to actually contact patients on your wait list, being like, hey, are you still available at this time? Especially when you're playing that game of phone tag and you can't reach them, or you text them and they don't respond to you right away. And then that has to go to another patient.
Yeah, I view this two ways. One is productivity, which you're alluding to right there, being able to take that task and automate it instead of playing the phone tag as you described. So right on with that. The second piece of this is, over the challenges of the last few years, some of the benefits that I think many practices have seen lately is practices have come back stronger. And many practices over the challenges of those last few years now are busy. And I talk to docs all the time that are booked weeks out. And when you have those last minute cancellations, when you have those day of reschedules, man, that's challenging, because you have people that want to get in and then you have no shows. And that's always a balance. And you want to try to obviously fill as many of those available options to see you as possible, to deliver the care, to generate revenue for the practice. So the opportunity to have that system automated, I love it, because it helps, again, better productivity. You get to take some tasks off the staff, but also I think you're just going to have a higher shooting percentage when you're able to be real time, as you described, and automate that process. Now you're going to be able to fill in more of those reschedules and cancels, which is only going to make your patients live healthier lives because of the care you're delivering, and your business be healthier as well, because you're able to generate that revenue instead of twiddling your thumbs for that time. So absolutely love it. Huge feature.
Awesome. Yeah, that's exactly right. And that sort of brings us to the end of the patient scope. This is what they'd be seeing. These are all the things that they would be doing as patients. So as you can probably already tell, a lot of those administrative tasks that maybe your front desk staff is doing right now can be done by Jane, which will save you a lot of that and save you some time and money and paying people to do that stuff for you. Heading into the actual Jane account itself, so how you see it as a practitioner and clinic owner, I will go over some of the neat features here as well as they relate to Kairos. So one thing that you'll notice when we log in here is this dashboard on the right-hand side that gives you some basic infographics about the practice if you like to look at that stuff. So revenue based on types of services, top patients, the ones who come to see you most often, ones that are paying the most money, the different services that you offer, as well as really at a glance, the chart notes that you've completed and the ones that still need to be completed. And what I love about this screen is that you can do your entire day from here. So you have your infographics on the right, your dashboard, and on the left, you have your schedule. So to begin by taking a patient in, you would just click on their appointment. And that takes you directly to their chart notes. So you can see the entire history of their charts. Any other providers at the clinic, their chart notes would appear here as well. And if you want to begin your clinical notes from here, there's a couple ways to do it. I'm going to show you one way that I find to be really helpful. I'll see this previous chart note, and I find that not much has changed since the last visit. And so what I'll do is I'll just duplicate it over with today's date. All of that information carries over. So I'm salting over my note. I can make a quick change to it, and I don't have to spend so much time changing it up once it's been created. I can just sign it off on it, and I know I'm done, and I can go on to the next patient or add a note to it and then sign it off. But I don't have to start from scratch each time, which is super important. And on that note, one thing that is another thing that is important to note here is the actual billing information. So over here on the right side, you'll see the appointment information along with billing and insurance. So some of you will be taking insurance, some of you will not. Some of you will be collecting information from the patients and providing it to them in the way of super bills. And whichever way you're deciding to bill, you'll be able to copy over all of this insurance information from visit to visit, so you're not continuously typing it out. So instead of having to go in, put in each CPT code and each diagnosis code, the next time I book this patient in, Jane will remember and all of that information will carry forward. So if I was to book this patient in for tomorrow, her name's Minnie. I'll type in her name up here. And Jane will ask me to choose the service she's coming in for, and then immediately will ask me if I want to use the same information as last time. So if I use the same as previous year, and let that load for a sec, all of that insurance information that I had mentioned from last time, so the CPT codes, the diagnosis codes, and everything else will be carried over, which is a huge time saver, especially when you know that all of the information is consistent. And I can always add more services as I go. We have an entire database that you can search from and customize and assign rates to. So it becomes super customizable, and it allows me to carry things over going forward really easily. Like you'll notice as I add codes here, all the diagnosis codes carry down, which is super helpful so that I know the diagnosis is staying the same, but maybe the service I'm providing is different. So I can do that. And there's actually a couple of different ways to do this. Even if the patient doesn't have an insurance policy, you can carry that information going forward to save you some of that administrative task. So as an example, if I was to book Minnie in for yet another appointment because she just loves to see her chiropractor, I might not want to select her insurance policy, or maybe she doesn't have one. And so what I'll do is I will just skip this step of choosing that policy. I know some clinics that are using Jane right now aren't totally aware of this feature, but even in the case that a patient doesn't have a policy like Minnie here, I can still copy those codes over. So those codes from last time that I put in, I'll click add policy anyway, and I'll just choose last visit as my example. And all of the information from that visit will be carried forward.
Going over that information is fantastic. And one of the things that comes to mind for me as you're showcasing the demo right now is I love the visual understanding of what's going on. I'm not clicking around to 75 different places. I can see my schedule on the left-hand side. I see those chart entries right down the middle clearly. And then I have my insurance and billing information on the right-hand side of the screen. That just saves so much mind share. Instead of having to click constantly around, I can actually work within a patient chart on an entry, whether it's insurance or clinical. I can see who's coming up next on the schedule, make those drag and drops when necessary. That's just such a workflow advantage instead of having to click in and out of, again, 70 different things to do single tasks, being able to clearly see basically what's going on with my schedule and this patient is so impactful as a provider because it helps inform then the conversations I can have with the patient live. And I love being able to facilitate better communication by having better understanding in a simplified way. It sounds almost like a dream or impossible, but the layout here, I think, really facilitates better communication by being able to have a comprehensive understanding of what's going on with the patient. So this is awesome.
So glad to hear it. Absolutely. And I'm going to give you an example of a patient that may be coming in for the first time. You might recall that I booked this patient in online, and you'll see here that this is where the patient's intake form lives. So any of their intake form will just be populated within the chart note in the first place so that I can see it all in one place, which is going to kind of speak to that idea of keeping everything kind of centralized. And on top of that, with this patient being that they're new and I'm just establishing a care plan for them, I can go into their appointment and do that from here as well. Instead of having to look through my schedule, I'll just click this recurring appointment button here. I'll indicate when the patient prefers to come in. So let's say Wednesdays at the same time and maybe the frequency. So they might be coming in until the end of the summer. So I'll do August 31st as an example. Jane will keep track of all of my appointments within this same area. And I can see all of these appointments coming up. This will be part of their care plan, and I can book all of them here. The really great part is the patient has been scheduled going forward. And if they need to make any changes, as we saw earlier, they can go into their account and make those changes from there, whether that's rescheduling or canceling an appointment. So that saves them quite a bit of time on that front. Okay, so that would be the sort of day-to-day task of charting and getting the patient bill ready. But I'll also mention that there is a way to do all the add the billing codes, add the diagnosis codes right from their chart, because I know a lot of you will be working in that workflow as well. So as I create a new chart entry, I'll notice here that there are chart templates I can work from. So all of these templates are super customizable. We actually have a library that we work from. Other clinics are using Jane and they contribute to this library. So you'll always be able to find one that works for you. And once you've found one that works for you, you'll just be customizing it to suit your practice. So this is one of our popular ones, a well-adjusted soap note. But let's say I want to customize it. Once I've added it to the account, it would just be a matter of going in, finding the actual template itself. And then I can customize just about anything. So whether that's the name of it, if I want to delete items, I can do that. I can change the options that are provided in these checkboxes, whatever it might be. So it does become super customizable on that front. And I say this all to say, within the chart note itself, once I've selected the template that I'm working with, over here in the notes section, what I want to do is just put in my billing and diagnosis code. So to do that, Jane has a short code that would be really helpful for you. So you just start typing the hashtag or number symbol and then the beginning of the code. And once I've put in the code itself, I can put in the diagnosis. And similarly to the way we discussed earlier, all of this will be included in the billing information. I just have to scroll down to the bottom here. I'll see all of the codes that I've included here so that I don't have to go in and type them out again. Select them all and include them in the billing information. And like I mentioned earlier, all of that will be carried over to their next visit. So if this is their initial exam, I don't have to worry about doing this again.
That is awesome. Mickey, thank you so much for showcasing this. A couple of things come to mind as you just highlighted some of those super important features. I think all of us have probably struggled building out charts, et cetera. So having that library as a jumping off point, so important. And you showcased just how easy it is to make any of those edits and really customize and personalize for each provider. I absolutely love it. And again, I think this just speaks to the fact of you actually can have an EHR that works with your practice instead of against your practice. And so many providers out there feel like it's an uphill battle as they're working with technology. But when designed smartly, when designed appropriately, and when designed with the clinician and the patient relationship at the heart, it really you've done a great job showcasing how technology and how an EHR can actually facilitate a relationship from where we started with scheduling that initial appointment to assisting in office with helping remove some of those tasks through automation that the staff are doing day in and day out, sometimes unsuccessfully. This helps them be more successful in an automated way. And then from a clinician's perspective, being able to see just how easy it is to create daily notes for the patients. And when you're first getting started, being able to tap into others' expertise and that extensive library of notes and templates that other people have had success utilizing in their practice. I think it's fantastic. I know there is so much more we could go into today, but I appreciate your time. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2 and continue the patient experience and journey here. But Mickey, you've done a fantastic job, and I want to thank you for taking the time and showcasing exactly how Jane can help providers out there better communicate with their patients and ultimately improve their patient experience. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for watching this video on the Evidence-Based Chiropractor channel. If you don't want to miss a single thing, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get notifications of every video we put out, and we put out new content each and every week. So be sure to subscribe today.